Hello everyone, this is going to be my mid-tier guide for the Bloody Queen, Mary of Identity 5. I want to start by stating that a lot of the advice within this guide is applicable to other hunters and as such will be beneficial even to those who do not play Mary, nor wish to. I also would like to state that all of the gameplay shown is from my actual ranked matches, some of which are posted in full on my channel and will be linked below. With that out of the way, let us get started. So, there are two core components required when playing Mary in lower tiers, or at the start of mid-tier, these being game sense and depth perception. So, what is game sense, you may be wondering? Well, I would describe game sense as your knowledge of what is happening in your match. Things such as knowing if the survivors are healing or decoding, knowing who or where the rescuer is, being able to know where the survivors are. All of these are crucial skills to have as you rank up with Hunter. To play Mary effectively, you should be able to know what is happening in your rank matches, and I will provide examples shortly. I found that when I first started playing her, having formerly been a Joseph main, I was able to develop a much stronger game sense because I would have to know where the survivors were to mirror to them. If we use this part of the match as an example, you can see that I chair the entomologist. Once she is on the chair, you may see that I have wanted order on the doctor, but I make the decision not to mirror to her. Instead, I check for other active ciphers before mirroring and landing a surprising terror shock on this perfumer. I didn't mirror onto the doctor as she would just heal the hit and continue decoding, whereas the perfumer will need to leave her cipher to get healed should I land a normal hit on her, which, if she does, means that she and the person healing her are no longer decoding. Additionally, with the entomologist on chair, it's likely that someone would come to save her, meaning that in this ideal situation, no one is decoding, because two people are healing and one is chaired and one is rescuing. It was lucky that I got the terror shock, as it means that the perfumer is stuck at her cipher on the ground. Perfumer's character has a healing debuff, meaning that it would be a long time before she was able to get herself back up. In this match, the perfumer used her self-heal, but was never brought back to full health, meaning that if I found her after eliminating Ento, it would be a quick and easy down from me, which, as you may see later, is exactly what ends up happening. Once the entomologist is eliminated, I put Knight on the chair, Knight is saved and healed, and I find the perfumer at a cipher. Because the perfumer was not healed, she goes down fast in one of the worst areas of this map for survivors. I put her on the rocket chair, and you may recall that the doctor was last seen in the hospital right before I teleport. Well, after I chair the perfumer, I check for active ciphers. I notice that the one in hospital abruptly stops moving. This indicates that the doctor will come for the rescue, so I walk over and try to stuff the rescue early. This did not entirely work out as I had hoped because the doctor had flywheel. However, I was able to get a normal hit onto her early, thus meaning that obtaining a double down would be much easier for me in one mirror, which is what ends up happening, as you can see. The Knight then comes for the rescue because to a degree he's kind of forced to. He could have also tried for dungeon. I'm not sure why he didn't, honestly. But it's okay because he gets terror shocked before he even reaches the chair. And that's a GG. I hope you can see all of the thinking that went into that and all of the game sense that was required within that match to secure that win. I hope that is a good demonstration of how game sense matters when playing Mary. A lot of those mirrors, intercepting the rescue, knowing where the rescuer was coming from and who it was likely to be, wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have a good game sense. The way to develop game sense, as I stated earlier, is by playing a hunter regularly, in my opinion, is the best way. You could also get it from playing Survivor. The benefit, however, to playing Hunter commonly is that you see what all of the survivors in the matches are doing. Or you should if you're getting wins and ties. If you're losing, then it might be an idea to look back on your gameplay and see what they were doing. That you could have possibly intercepted a cipher or intercepted healing somewhere. That's my general advice around game sense, and I hope my demonstration is helpful. Moving on to the next segment, we have depth perception, which I'm really excited to talk about, and I've got a lot of demonstration to go through on what depth perception is, how it works, why it works, and why you need to practice it as Mary. And I'm so excited to talk about it. So, to start, I would like to define depth perception as the ability to tell how far away something is from you. And my first demonstration is actually within this match being shown now. I know from experience and observation that the puppeteer will want to go into the double-story hospital, so I mirror to cut off his path and to secure the down. For this to work, I have to know roughly how far away the hospital entrance is from me and how far away the puppeteer is from me, either by prediction or by visually looking and seeing and gauging the distance. Had I not had good depth perception from lots of practice, then it would have likely been that this could have been a missed hit, and he could have gone into the hospital, which would have extended his kite by God knows how long, because I am awful at chasing in two-story buildings. I probably would have had the soft targets, honestly. It's a relief to me that he didn't make it in there. Depth perception is acquired skill. It is not something I can necessarily sit and give tons of advice for, really. I can give general pointers though, like you know that you're near someone with your mirror when they start to run around or do sporadic movements that do not make sense. If you're swinging and someone flywheels, then you're like really close behind them, and if your mirror is not about to run out, then you can walk a few steps in their direction and land a charge tail on them generally. It gets a little complicated when people start running backwards or forwards. Instead of like side to side, I find it's a lot easier when someone is running sideways for me to be able to watch them on my mirror than it is when someone starts running away from the mirror or towards the mirror, because I have to tell which one it is and it's not always easy. Another thing to know about how close you are to the other person is the size of Mary's mirror image to the size of their mirror image. If it's roughly 1-to-1 as what it would be if they're standing right next to you, you're probably on them. I've seen other Marys also say that looking at her feet might be something. I personally have never done that, but I trust what they say. And if it works, it works. So the general advice around Mary's feet is that if her feet align with the feet of the survivor, supposedly you're on them and you can get a hit. And I trust them. I have not done that, but if some people are able to look out for that, and if that does work for them, then I'm more than happy for you. Depth perception is not a difficult skill to acquire by any means. It took me probably 2 weeks of practicing against master bots for me to be able to follow their pathing, landing mirrors immediately on ciphers. It took me about 2 weeks to get to that stage of accuracy where I was doing it almost every single time perfectly. In real matches, it took a little bit longer because people have skills, like Cheerleader has her pom-poms. The survivors have flywheel and things like that, so it took a little while longer for me to keep up. but I managed to do it overall, and even now, some of my mirrors long distance are not the best because I'm a little unpracticed. I try not to mirror too far long distance if I can help it, because I'd rather keep my mirror for when they're closer to me, or if there's a cipher closer by that needs intercepting, but sometimes I'm forced to, and sometimes I do miss, and that's okay. That's okay. It's acceptable to miss in low to mid tier. It's not so much acceptable in higher tiers, but that's a point where I need to practice some work on myself, and I'm more than excited to. So this first persona is the one that you see me carry the most in my rank matches presently. And I use this persona because it is not chase dependent. So if I need to swap targets or such like that, this persona is very good to keep up with that. It is very maximized for map control. I have Trump Card and Detention. I have 2 Unwanted Order, and I have Maximum Berserker so that I can immediately cycle through chairs as best as I can and squander rebound potential. The second persona that I'm showing you is much more of a chase persona. It's a little controversial because some people will say that Mary doesn't need palette breaking at all, but this persona is with the intention of, if I'm not confident that I'm going to be able to get a win or a tie out of my other persona, I will use this one because this one is maximized for chase and maximized for getting people chaired and downed, which is why I do not have Trump Card. This kind of persona is not intended to go through games that will make an end game, if that makes sense. I play this persona, it's a little risky, but I play this persona with the intention of not letting the survivors even reach endgame. And it works for me, but some people are a little inclined to not go for this. This one is a bit risky if you're not so keen with Mary, if you're not so good with Mary. Then I would definitely use the first persona I show and not this other one. But if you are a little more confident with Mary, with your mirrors, if you're a little more confident with your cipher control, then this is a good persona to use to get people on their chairs as quickly as possible. In my humble opinion. For traits on Mary, I've seen a lot of different things. I've seen people carry Patroller. I've seen people carry Blink. I personally will bring Blink or Peepers. I usually start the game with Blink and then swap to Peepers or Abnormal or Teleport. If there's a stunner comp, I usually will bring Excitement and then swap to Teleport. I personally don't run Patroller because I don't have much issue with landing mirror hits, really. And I don't have much of an issue with people body blocking when I'm trying to mirror hit. And I just think it's a lot better, in my opinion, to get that presence early, which is why I would bring Blink if you're struggling to get that first down. Mary is hugely affected by the amount of time that you waste in a match. So if your first chase takes longer than 20, 40, 60 seconds, it's unlikely that you're going to win unless you pull some absolute magic from nowhere. Which is why I bring Blink, so that it doesn't get to that stage where I am struggling to get anyone downed. But Excitement works just as well. The thing with Excitement is that if you're going to bring it, you need to use it at the most critical point because Excitement has an 80-second cooldown. And if you are not akin to using it, at a crucial moment, then all that's going to happen, especially as you rank up, is you're going to have these survivors who are really good at stunning, who are going to give you the hardest time even despite your excitement. So if you do have excitement, be very careful with it, because otherwise you are going to struggle. In my opinion, Mary can be played in quite a few different ways. You can tunnel with her. I personally don't recommend it, because if you're spending too long eliminating your first target, then ultimately you will get cipher rushed. I don't generally have an issue getting my first target, but sometimes when I do, I will prefer to just change target. And it's not a shame, it's not admitting defeat if you do. I think it's completely intelligent, and it's very brave to recognize that you have to take that step. Mary can be used in a variety of ways. You can camp with her. You don't have to camp with her. You can leave the chair and then mirror back after the survivor's been rescued and get them down immediately after. Like that. You don't have to camp with her, but you can. So if you would rather chair someone and then walk over to a nearby cipher that's being done and get that person injured or even on chair as well, that's completely fine. If you do want to camp and just focus on getting damage on the team from long distance, that's completely fine as well. Mary is very versatile, especially in endgame. If you conserve your mirror, don't use it to get a hit when the cipher is primed. Use your main body, or try to take a pallet stun, and then you can immediately mirror onto the target after the cipher has been popped down them. And if you have teleport, or if the gate is close enough, you can walk over and get another kill easily. Mary is very versatile, and this is part of the reason why I love her. She can do so much. She can stuff rescuers from such a long distance if you choose to go through that route. Or what I used to do is I used to carry chair speed, and sometimes I will swap out of rage effect or berserker to put on chair speed, which decreases the amount of time it takes for the rocket chair to go through its phases. So it'll be the rocket chair countdown is the rocket chair countdown is 3% faster, 6% faster, 9% faster. And it's really useful if you do want to focus on stuffing rescues. But if you want to play a much more calm approach where you camp the chair, long distance hits, as I mentioned, that's completely fine as well. Mary is good for all of these things. The one thing I never recommend with Mary is to focus on one thing. If you focus on just one person or one cipher, you are going to be cipher rushed. So please, please put yourself in a position where you are doing more than one thing at a time. And this comes into game sense. If you don't know what's going on in your match, you can't target those other things that you have to, like a cipher, like survivor's healing, like the rescuer coming from a distance. Even targeting people who are in chests, you can't do any of those things if you don't know what's going on in your match. And Mary is such a good way. With practicing her, you will learn what people are doing, what people are likely to do. If people are running from you in like a kite, what paths are they likely to take? You can use your mirror to cut off ones that you would rather not go down, like my example from earlier with the hospital. I didn't want to chase the pup to an hospital, so I mirrored to stop him from going in there. All of these things are perfectly available to you, and you play Mary, please use them. Because she's so strong when you're not afraid to use her to do multiple things at once. And you'll only get there with practice, so please put in some time. It is so worth it when you can get this down. And finally, the part of the video that everyone was probably wanting the most. How do I place my mirrors? How should I angle them? What should I do? How can I mark a survivor with my mirror? I'm going to answer all of this as well as I can and as quickly as I can because I'm conscious this video is getting very long. So we'll start the basics. When you're placing a mirror, if you're going to put a mirror and you're not confident, especially for long distance, always put it further out. It is so much easier to walk towards a mirror that has gone too far out than it ever will be to follow a survivor walking away from them. So please, 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 if you're gonna put down a mirror and you're not confident, always overshoot, never undershoot. Additionally, when placing a mirror, you should try to be conscious of where you are as well. When you're putting down a mirror, it's not advisable for you to put down a mirror if you are inside the factory. For example, on Arms Factory, because it's a lot of walls and not really much space for you to move around. So if you're going to use a mirror, your best chance of landing it is going to be to walk out to an open area and then mirror onto the survivor in the open. Bonus points, actually, if the survivor is in a closed area, because as long as you know the area they're in, then you know all of the pathing that they can follow to try and avoid your mirror, while also being conscious of the walls that they cannot pass that your mirror can. Some of my favorite places to mirror are actually in the center of Arms Factory, the 2-pallet area. Because if someone is on a cipher there and I'm outside of that area mirroring in, there is nothing they can do really to avoid that hit because they are surrounded by walls and 3 open spots out of that area that I am conscious of. So if they try to run towards any of those spots, I can follow them with my mirror and get a very easy hit. Just like that immediately. There's also the other walls places on Arms Factory. All 3 of them are very good if you are standing on the outside mirroring in, not the other way around. If you are on the inside mirroring out, the survivor is going to have such an easy time running out of your radius and you running into a wall trying to keep up with them. If you are in that situation where you have to mirror for whatever reason from the inside, try to be conscious of angling so that you can try to get a cheeky hit without trapping yourself between a load of walls. But sometimes it cannot be helped. And at that stage, if the survivor is escaping your grasp, it's much better for you to swap positions with the mirror than to stay in that situation and try to salvage it that way. How to mark a survivor with your mirror. A survivor will be immediately marked based on how close the mirror is. If the mirror is within a certain range, I'm not sure what this range is, but it's like really, really close. Probably about 10-15 meters of the survivor. Imagine it is like a radius. So 10-15 meters in front, no matter what way the survivor is looking, if your mirror is around that kind of area, then the survivor will immediately be marked. And the survivor will lose their mark once they leave that range. So that's how you know generally which way the survivor is running, because if they leave that range, then you know they're out of your range now. And it might just be better for you to either swap or try to salvage it, as some of my previous examples in this video I have shown. There are some mirror tricks that people have to do with like ever sleeping and such like that. This video is getting a bit long for me to show them, really, so I would just recommend looking at some other examples. I do have this one on Big Boat that I will show where you can actually mirror to get to the upstairs part of Big Boat immediately. And I will show that hopefully now. But that's generally all of the advice I have around mirror placement. Just make sure you are in an open area generally, unless you're really confident. a survivor will immediately be marked if your mirror is accurate. The mirror can go through obstacles that you cannot, so please do not hold on to it like it is your last resort. If you have to use it, use it. Because it is much better, in my opinion, to get it down and then have a little bit of time to wait for your cooldown than it is to hold your mirror for the most perfect opportunity. But as well, be careful. Do not be impulsive. Don't throw down a mirror that you haven't put any thought behind at all, because there's a good chance you're not going to land it. So keep your mirror until you think that you've got the survivor in a good position. And the most important thing about mirrors, especially as you get to higher tier, is that you have to be good at mind gaming. You will encounter survivors who will try to juke your mirror image. So, if you cannot do any mind gaming at all between, ooh, I'm going this way and I'm going to go that way and I'm going to swing over here and then suddenly turn your camera, then you're going to really struggle with the survivors who will juke you and will juke you effectively. You can also use your mirror to counter some survivors like gardener, like perfumer, where you can put down the mirror and wait for the bubble to finish while following her with that mirror and then immediately hit her when the bubble pops. Or for perfumer, you can put if she perfumes, you can put the mirror image by her perfume and then follow her with your main body. And if she goes back, you can hit her with the mirror image pretty quickly after. And there's not much she can do about it. You can use the mirror for long distance travel. If you don't have a current target in mind, you don't have to hold on to it purely for damage. It's recommended that you get a hit per mirror, but you do not have to if your game is comfortable or if you urgently need to get somewhere because the survivors are healing or decoding. You can use it just for travel. That's completely fine. You can, if you place a really bad mirror, you can swap the position between you and the mirror to try and save it. You do not have to sit there and struggle with a mirror that ultimately is doomed. You can swap your position with the mirror image and try to walk back in or out if you need to, and then try to get the survivor with the other side. Just be cautious about that, because once you swap once, you cannot swap again. So I wouldn't recommend that if, again, you have not thought about it thoroughly. But if you have fully considered your options and have decided that is your best one, go ahead, give it a try. The worst you can do is let the survivor gain a little more distance. Mary is quite slow walking, but by the time your mirror cooldown is back, you should be able to, hopefully, land another mirror and get them down finally. And the final thing I will cover, which some of you who may have been watching my channel for a little bit now will know, is that I have this trick that I personally love to do, and I don't see a lot of Mary, particularly in low or mid-tier, doing this. So I want to share this advice to people playing Mary in lower and mid-tier, and that is to not be afraid to get a blink hit with your mirror. It's very scary, I know. It's very scary because, what if I miss my blink? What if I don't get the hit? In my opinion, as long as you are paying attention to what the survivor is doing, you will likely land that hit. And even in situations, I think I've got 2 videos on my channel actually where I do miss the blink. I have immediately gotten a hit afterwards because the blink put me in the range to hit the survivor again immediately after. Anyway, so it's not that I blinked super far away and lost the survivor. It's that the blink put me closer to the survivor, so even if I don't get the hit, the survivor is still within my damage box. And I get the hit immediately after. So all I can say about that is please practice that, because it is a game changer when you start facing higher tier survivors who can kite mirrors very well, who will be able to juke you, who will use their skills to their advantage to create distance from your mirror. who will have good accurate flywheel, it's a very good skill to counter all of that. If you are struggling to get that hit, as I mentioned, Mary is very weak. If you are spending so much time on chase, the best thing you can do to set yourself up for success, especially in higher tier and mid tier, is to be able to land mirror blink hits. Don't stress about getting mirror terror shocks. You will get them as they happen. But if you can land a mirror blink hit, then you are very set for taking her to higher tiers. And that is my biggest piece of advice. The only way you're going to get there is to practice and try, because if you do not practice it and if you do not try it, you are not going to get any better at it. And as I mentioned, it's a complete game changer. And it takes playing Mary from just getting ties all the time to getting wins. It's because survivors, especially in mid-tier and low-tier, do not expect it. They don't predict it because they don't sit there and they don't think, hey, this Mary's probably going to blink on me right now. No one expects it. Because you're chasing them with the mirror image, they're not expecting it. So that's a really good way of securing a very fast down. And that's a really good way of even hitting the rescuer to stuff a rescue as well. I also have an example of that on my channel. There are so many ways you can use the mirror, which I've stated over and over again in this video, but that blink will change your life as a Mary main, honestly. If you don't run blink, that's completely fine, but for those who are going to use Mary and run blink like I do, this is the biggest piece of advice I can give to you.